Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, and welcome to another episode of Chair Hospital Critical Care Division. This is quite a nice chair, so I'm going to do whatever I can to keep it from getting all the shop dust and debris and smudge marks and stuff on it. Just trying to work on an upholstered chair with the upholstery still on it. It's pretty much inevitable. Something's going to get dirty. Take a closer look at this joint, and looks like everything just broke. We'll learn more about that as we get all this upholstery off of it. Now this is kind of interesting. We have two joints here that have failed in the front. This is a pretty simple dowel joint. Two dowels in here go into the holes here in the leg. Then you got this corner brace. That's pretty conventional modern chair design. The problem here is there's no glue. This was depending completely on the screws and these wooden dowels to hold this thing together. And it appears that somebody pushing the chair back, the legs here got caught on the rug or something, and it just was too much force. Pulled the dowels apart, pulled the screws out, and again, not a drop of glue on anything here to help it out. Now I finally got enough upholstery loose where I can devise some sort of a plan, some sort of strategy. Problem I've got, these straps are stapled into this front piece of the seat frame, and if I pull those loose, then that's going to add, I don't know, maybe $200 or $300 to the job, because an upholsterer is going to have to put it all back together. I don't really do that sort of stuff in the lab. If I can leave that intact, get this joint back together a little more substantially than it was originally, then it'll be a reasonable repair, and they can live with the chair the way it is until they can go ahead and get the thing totally reupholstered or whatever they want to do with it. But the thing is, I really can't take these loose, even though it will make my job much, much easier. This corner has the worst of the damage. Both these dowels here are broken off, and for these side dowels, it just split the board. Now, one interesting thing, of course, as I said, there's no glue on these. And I have found tiny traces of glue on this piece, which has to go against these grooves. So we've got a glue surface area here of probably less than a third, maybe a quarter of the face of this board. There's just no way that was going to hold. Put too much stress on it, and it all broke at once. This is the kind of job I would prefer to do on a drill press, but strapping it down to a couple of sawhorses is going to have to do. Now, one of the reasons jobs like this take so much bench time is because they often involve altered glue ups that basically just stop the work right there where you're at. And you've got to wait a couple hours, sometimes overnight, until you can go back to work on it. This is a case in point where I'm going to glue this little chip in place. And I really can't handle this until tomorrow. My mother taught me to be grateful for small blessings. So I am indeed very thankful that whoever put this chair together didn't use more glue than they did. Even though that's what led to the failure, it also reduced a lot of the damage that I usually see in this kind of a problem. What I've done now is I've replaced all the dowel pins which got damaged. I've got the holes drilled out so that the glue, and they actually had some wire brads punched in from the side with a nail gun. Most of them missed the pin completely. So again, small blessing. And now I'm ready to put it together. There are two things that I know are true for this kind of work. And the first is that dry fit is the most important part of the procedure. The second thing I've learned is that the person who tries to film himself during the glue up has a fool for a cameraman. Unusual shapes always call for unusual clamping procedures. This piece here in the back is a 2x6 yellow pine, and ordinarily I would be reluctant to cut a piece of wood like that for a one-time use, but I got it out of a construction dumpster, so I've got no cost in it, and it gets the job done, which is a good lesson in this kind of thing. Never pass up a construction dumpster until you find out what they threw away. Now, before I start the final glue up, which is pretty much the point of no return, I've got to do something about these corner braces. Now, this is supposed to be a tongue and groove with parallel tongue and grooves, but there's no tongues. Absolutely nothing. Can't imagine why they did this for any other reason than it just save some money. But what I've done is made some little blocks that are a little bit longer than the originals, and they're going to go in here like this, and I've got to cut the tongues, which is kind of difficult. In a furniture mill, this would be done with a shaper, which would have 3 blades in parallel, and they would just run off a couple of hundred, couple of thousand of these things all at one time, and they'd be ready to go. I don't have that kind of tool, so I'm going to have to become creative. The problem is I've got to make multiple cuts on both faces, and I've got 2 of these. So my strategy is going to be to eliminate as many saw adjustments as possible. Because if I can make one cut right, and I can turn this piece around and cut the other side and hope it's right too. And for that purpose, I've made this jig, which is going to hold the piece down nice and tight. Keep my fingers away from the blade. And I've got one on both ends. Now we're working at my 1959 Craftsman Model 113 table saw, and most people would concede that it's okay table saw for a home shop and that sort of stuff, and it's what I've got, so that's what I'm going to use. But everybody hates the fence. They say it's inaccurate. They say it's hard to adjust. They say, oh, yeah. And all of them are actually quite correct. So to overcome this disability in the Craftsman 113, I've built this handy little gauge which allows me to set the fence at the same distance from at the front and back, and that saves me a lot of griping. I'm now sneaking up on the first critical cut. So I've got to really pay attention to what I'm doing. And in the meantime, my vacuum for the table saw just gave out. Well, let's see how we're doing so far. Not too bad. Definitely can classify this one as not screwed up yet. It's Wednesday morning. We're under a tornado and thunderstorm alert, so we may be interrupted by the sound of a downpour on the roof, or thunder, or hopefully not the tornado siren. In any case, the lab is a pretty strong building, so I'm not too worried about where I'm at. I'm going to install these corner braces before I remove the clamps. One of the small advantages of working on this type of chair is that all the clamping and whatever you do is going to be covered up by upholstery, so you don't have to worry about clamp marks and stuff. But in this particular job, that's small comfort. This jackleg staple job is just going to hold it until it gets turned over to the upholsterer. That's one part of the repair that I do not get into. Well, it is comfortable. So this is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, and I thank you for sitting through this video about a chair that can't be judged by its seat cover, and hope that you would like and subscribe. Try to get a video out about once a week. Hope to see you again next week. Thank you very much.